Raider Nation, what's going on? You're watching the Raiders Report. Friendly reminder that today's mailbag was filmed during our Tuesday live show. If you missed Jeremy and I's taco eating contest, go back to the live show and check it out. Appreciate everyone tuning in. Let's go to the very first question here. One in from, I don't know if you guys are trying to get me. 909. If the Bears want to draft Bryce Young, should the Raiders trade for Justin Fields, and what would it cost? I've seen a lot of rumors around Justin Fields because they do have the number 1 overall pick. But, I'll say this. I personally don't want to trade for Fields, and the biggest reason is he's an incredible athlete. But the amount that you would have to give up in order to get him to go all the way up to 1, you'd probably have to give up your first-round pick this year, maybe another first-round pick. Like, you might even have to throw in a big-time player. I love Fields. He is a good athlete. But I am always a believer in today's NFL, if you can't throw the football on a consistent basis, it's going to be tough. So for that reason, I would say no. I would say no to Justin Fields. What do you guys think, though? Should the Raiders trade for Justin Fields? Give me a Y for yes, or would you type your N for no? It always comes down to cost. I get it. They would probably want Bryce Young, and you never know what a quarterback's going to look like. But if I would rather take my chances on trying to get C.J. Stroud at number 7 instead of trading a whole bunch of draft capital to then just get Justin Fields and lose out on my first-round pick. So for that reason, I would type my N for no. Let's go to Wild Raider. Signing Brady is pointless if they don't upgrade the offensive line. I agree with that. Luckily, though, you got plenty of money this offseason to upgrade the O-line, and I believe that they're going to try to do that. So if you don't upgrade your line, then yeah, I don't really understand the idea of trying to bring in TB12. However, though, the offensive line has played a lot better than what's given credit for. This past week against, Alex Bars and Chris Jones, that was a disgrace. But realistically, statistically, the Raiders had a top 15 offensive line this season, which, when you look at the Bucs, they were bottom 5. So, big difference. Let's go to Carlos, 47. DC in our first for the Colts' first-round pick, maybe. So, if I was Indy, so essentially you swap what? Raiders would go up to 4. I personally would do that trade. I think it's actually a very intriguing trade. You would more than likely make that trade to get a quarterback, though Indianapolis, I don't know if they would do it. They might want a young quarterback. Like, I wouldn't blame them for not wanting Derek Carr. I'll say it. If you're a team and you're going to settle for a quarterback that hasn't played or didn't play last season like a top 16 QB, it's really hard to hang your hat on that guy. Let's go to Alan Cruz. What's up, bro? You guys will be going live this Saturday. Well, it just so happens, Lord Mitch, that my 23rd birthday is Saturday. Can't wait, my boys, which means then we got to do something special for Alan. I think we'll do $23 shots for Alan Cruz's birthday. What do y'all say? I think it sounds like a pretty damn good idea. Happy early birthday, Alan. And yes, we will be live for the Chargers and Jags game. FLAC. I know the Jags already beat us once this year, but you know what? I'm cheering against them. I'm cheering against the Chargers, so we're rooting on Jacksonville this Saturday. I don't want you to miss the watch party. I don't want you to miss any of the shows that we do. So hit that subscribe button. Turn on those notifications. That way you never miss a thing. And people who I know are part of the Noti Gang. Noti Gang is people that comment first on a video. Raider Sancho, Take Flight Task, Felix, Mark, OG, Raider. Also, we did a competition over on Locals, and I got to give some love to our Week 18 winner, Fayaz, who said, don't put me on show, put my son on the show, Ari. That's a cute baby, man. Congratulations to you, because he's a looker, man. He's a looker. Let's keep on this mailbag going. We got Cam Smith. Do you think the Raiders fire Patrick Graham? I do not. The Raiders don't need to fire Patrick Graham. Was the defense bad as a collective unit as the season? Yes, it was. But there was definitely a stretch there. I would say 6 out of the final 8 games that they played well. The final 2 games they didn't, but they were totally decimated with injuries, top to bottom. I would like to see more talent on the defense, but I really do not think Patrick Graham gets fired. They might fire some assistants because someone probably has to take the blame for a 6-11 season. I'll say no, though, to the firing of Graham. Let's go to Cameron. Carr, Waller, next year's 2nd round, and a 4th rounder this year for Rodgers. I don't think it's, I mean, if for Green Bay, I think they'd hang up the phone and laugh in your face. I mean, if you don't include a first-round pick, you ain't getting Rodgers. I mean, I think it would be Carr, Waller, 2 first-round picks, and then you got to pay Aaron Rodgers $50 million a year. I get why people want Rodgers, but if Brady's available and you don't got to give up all that draft capital, then the answer to that is no. Hellcat Q, you think we will swap picks at all? LFG, is that, let's go Raiders? Do we think we swap picks? I'm all on board for trading back. I see the Raiders going best player available for the simple fact of they have all these open holes. Like, they do. Giggity. Top beats. Yo, Mitch, you're the taco champ today, bro. Next, what are your thoughts on Stetson Bennett, and do you think that he might be a surprise pickup for the Raiders? I hope not. I actually don't really think Stetson Bennett's all that good. On top of that, he's like, Stetson Bennett is older than Lamar Jackson. Like, I mean, there are some people who think he won't get drafted. He's going to get drafted. I would imagine he gets drafted in the 6th, maybe 7th round. I mean, maybe somebody takes him in the 5th. That's way too early to me. He just has so much talent around Georgia where, you know, people are like, oh, Max Duggan's a great quarterback. Told you so. There are certain QBs who will be good backups, and being a good backup in the NFL is an okay thing. But if thinking that Stetson Bennett can be a starting caliber quarterback in the National Football League, I personally think is a pretty foolish thing to think about. Now, if you want to bet on any playoff game this season, you can go to chatsports.com/Raiders and make sure you use promo code Raiders125. That's going to get you 125% deposit bonus. That means if you put down $100, you get $125 for free to bet with. You want to be a big baller? Put down $500 on your first deposit, get $625 for free to bet with. It's the best deal on the internet. It's chatsports.com/Raiders. Promo code Raiders125. Let's go to Peyton Hurdy. Sign TB12 and draft CJ Stroud. I'm on board. Like, just because I think that the Raiders signed TB12, that doesn't mean that I don't want them to also take another quarterback. If you're going to bring in Tom Brady, I do. I think you have to have a project underneath, because if you're just like, oh, we'll pick Brady, we're going to play him for a year or two, and then just go out and look for another quarterback, that's dumb to me. If I was the Raiders, you bring in Brady, and then you also put a quarterback that can learn underneath Tom Brady. That way, when Brady does finally hang up the cleats, you hand the keys to whoever that young quarterback is. If that's CJ Stroud, great. Because I think CJ does have a lot of upside. He's just not ready to play in the NFL right now. Give him a year to learn underneath Brady, maybe 2. Hell yeah, different story. Let's go to Raider fan 02. If Carr is traded to any team, would you want a second-round pick or a defensive player? I mean, if you're telling me, so are you saying, do I get a second-round pick or a defensive player? I guess it would be depending on who that defensive player is, right? Like, if you can get, I don't know, I'm trying to think, a good defensive tackle, I would take a good defensive tackle over a potential of getting a good defensive player in the second round. So depending on who that player is, I like the idea of trading for players. I mean, you saw last year with the Devontae Adams trade. Yeah, you give up a first and a second round pick, but I believe the Packers, that was ended up being Christian Watson and Quay Walker. I'll take Devontae Adams. Let's go to Raul. If Addison falls in the second round, should the Raiders take a chance? I don't think he's going to fall. Like, yeah, the issue also is this, though. The Raiders don't really need wide receivers. Like, we don't really need offense. Sure, you can always upgrade in certain positions, but if you don't go a lot of defense in the draft, I mean, you gotta build up your trenches on both sides of the football. Linebacker, corner, safety. I mean, you got all these needs on defense. I'm investing on the defensive side during the draft. Let's go to Raider Timmy. If the Raiders did fire Patrick Graham, who do you think we would bring in? Honestly, I've said it before. I said it on Locals. I've said it on a few Raiders Report shows. I think it's Matt Patricia. And it's more just because I would bet money that the Raiders would try to bring him in. So right now he's the offensive coordinator in New England. There's a part of me that thinks that New England's going to replace him at OC. Patricia's going to be looking for a job. They say, hey, Matt, I know you were a DC when McDaniels was an OC in New England. Why don't you come on over here? That would be the only thing. Like, I would say if Patricia becomes available, then the firing of Patrick Graham does become a lot more likely in my book. But to me, the way that they move on from Graham is if they have plan B, and in that case, it'd probably be Matt Patricia. So what do y'all think, though? After the Raiders struggle yet again on the defensive side of the football, Should the Raiders fire Patrick Graham? Type F for fire, type K for keep. Let's go to Cameron Sproul. What's up, bro? If we don't get Rodgers this year, I would roll with Stiddy and draft Drake May next year. I mean, that's great in theory, but that means you're going to roll with Stiddy and you're going to finish as a bottom 3 team in the NFL, bottom 2? Like, if you're telling me right now I could get Drake May or Caleb Williams, obviously I think people would be dumb to say no to that. However, though, you just don't know what's going to happen, right? Like, you just never know. I do think if you started Jarrett Stidham, though, on this team next year, you're probably in the same situation. You're probably going to win 5 games. And I don't think that you're going to be – I don't think a guy like Devontae Adams would be very happy if you rolled into 2023 with Jarrett Stidham as your starting quarterback. Let's go to Raider Nation Jason. Could you see them trading 1 and 2 picks like we did Devontae? So are you saying could we give up a first and a second to go out and get somebody else? It would have to be an incredible player. I really think the only way you're giving up a first and a second this year is if you're getting a quarterback. Like the Raiders right now, your biggest need, we can talk about defense, your biggest need to an NFL team if you don't have a QB is a quarterback. So, but again, like I think with the amount of good players that there are out in free agency, the Raiders like Brady, they like Jimmy G. I think they're hanging on to the first and second round pick this year. Got a super thanks one in here from Dylan. Is Stetson Bennett declaring for the draft this year? What are your thoughts on him? I believe he has to declare. It's his final year. So I kind of already mentioned this one before. He's going to be a good backup in the NFL. I wouldn't draft him, though, in the top. He's a 6th-round talent to me, and that's somebody, again, who you're taking in the hope that someday potentially you could flip him for, I don't know, a 5th or a 6th-round pick in the future. All right, y'all, if I didn't get to your question, you can always hit me up, IG, Twitter. I'm at Mitchell Renz 365. Join us over on Locals, Raidersport.locals.com. I am doing 2 live shows on Locals this week, so please, if you haven't already joined our awesome fan base over there, make sure you do it. Die Hard Raider fans only.